Hello.
This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio. We are back live on the air. I'm sorry for the interruption. I had to get everything back up and running so that we could actually broadcast this out over the social media websites and everybody can hear everything that City Manager Jerome Fletcher has to say today. So I apologize for the mishap, but we got it corrected in amazing time. So we're back on the air, and I really want you to kind of give a quick overview of what's kind of transpired over the last few weeks within the city, and then we'll get into some topics.
Oh, absolutely. So over the last few weeks, we've had a good amount of discussion regarding the Live Local Act, which is something that went into effect in this July. It doesn't really help us in our effort of what we're trying to do based on our age and maturity as a city. Cities that are more developed and have maybe more commercial than they need, or still using their land for commercial and could spare some for affordable housing, is helpful for that side of it. We all know that affordable housing is important, but in our case, we're trying to build more commercial. We're at about 8%, and we're trying to get through to about 18% once the ULDC rewrite goes through. So the commission voted on 1024 for us to explore a moratorium. So we're working on that, and there'll be more conversation from the commission on that on November the 14th. But we're moving forward on that, which is it's a touchy subject based on how we get there. The outcome is valuable, but how we get there is important as well.
Well, and I kind of highlight that because I don't think the average everyday consumer of information out here really understands what the Live Local Act is.
Yeah. So we have certain land right now that's designated as commercial. And according to the Live Local Act, a developer can come in and say that, they want to use that same land for affordable housing. So we're trying to protect that land. That's the simplest way to put it. And in order to protect that land, we have to take an action that is contrary to the act itself. And staff's opinion is what we told the commission on 1024, which was that we are rewriting the ULDC, which is a very huge project that has been going on for multiple years, and we're almost at the finish line. So if you allow us, if there's 8 things in the Live Local Act that we don't like, well, the rewrite might take care of 5 of them. And then you take care of those 5, and then you put the moratorium on the other 3. And then that way you can say we have an up-to-date code as a supporting document and process and procedure to support your argument. And someone can't accuse you of having a code that is old, which ours was last updated in 2010. So that's the pathway that we proposed, and commission told us they care about the ULDC as well, and they care about Warm Middle Springs, which will be affected by that pathway as well. So we're trying to blend it all together with the staff we have.
And that ULDC, and having the truthfully a current one, because we're 10 years behind the last one that was actually written. So having that is, no matter what anybody says, that by itself is a really critical piece of a city moving forward, isn't it?
Absolutely. So the ULDC rewrite sort of fixes some of the old problems that we had in our 13-year-old code. It also allows us to match the vision of the commission to what their expectations are so that we can actually accomplish those things. It's very important. And of course, it has rezoning and activity center implications as well. But this city, based on our growth curve, needs to be able to efficiently operate and get the maximum out of the code. And so doing that will allow us to actually maximize one, commercial, because we keep talking about commercial. And I want to make sure that people understand that when we talk about commercial, residential property owners will pay less in taxes as we get more commercial to support our city. We need commercial to help balance that. And if we don't get that, then that sort of puts more on our citizens and taxpayers, and we don't want that. So the ultimate goal is to take burden off of taxpayers' dollars.
And really the changing of commercial mix in our city is an essential part of that growth too, isn't it?
Absolutely. The commercial mix and growth is something every city goes through at some point in time, through its trajectory. Other cities around us went through it. And as I tell people, right now, as Northport is in its prime and people want to be here and people want to bring their businesses here, people want to live here, we have to make sure that we do it the right way. And, laws have changed, state laws, federal laws have changed, and you have to keep up with the times. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. We were left behind, and I know that the city has tried a couple of times in multiple years in order to fix our ULDC and just haven't had it done. So if we don't stick to it now and we slide that scale back even a few months further back, we're really targeting this to be done by the end of the first quarter of calendar year 24. And if we stay on it based on our staff that we have in place, we believe that we can get there.
We've got some major projects happening with the hospital coming in at Sumter and 75. We've got Toledo Blade Corridor that's going to pop open. We've got War Mill Springs that's there. Is there some resiliency money being maneuvered around there? And can you talk a little bit about those three projects and how they're moving along right now?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start with the hospital and the overarching question for your resiliency money. So the Resilient SRQ is really, for those who don't know, it's the $200 million that the Department of HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development, has given to the county, Sarasota County. The county has done multiple efforts of outreach. They've heard from us, they've heard from the citizens, and now the plan is in the hands of HUD in order to see and make sure that we can take the money and use it in a viable way that helps those who were impacted by Hurricane Ian. What we're asking for in that plan is two things that we should all be aware of and be on the lookout for. One, the water control structures that we have in the city are failing and we need to replace them. So as far as a infrastructure project, we hope that we get some money to redo some infrastructure, water control structures really, really soon. The bigger piece of the pie is going to be, at least half of it, I believe, as it was submitted, was to help the citizens rebuild, rehab, reconstruct their homes that they lost and were damaged during Hurricane Ian. But they have to apply for those programs. We can't apply for it on their behalf. They won't give us the money to give to them. So there's going to be a really big push to make sure that people are able to get out and apply for that. Now, having said all that, the hospital itself, SMH is targeting the hospital at Sumter and 75 to begin first. We're still having meetings on the progress of that. Everything is going fine and smooth. We believe that hopefully that hospital will be done in like 3.5 years completed if we keep moving forward. We also know that they'll have a footprint out at Wallen Park as well as HCA. HCA keeps sort of increasing their hospital beds that they'll have out there right now. So the healthcare portion of what we're doing is moving fairly well. We're also partnering with the Sarasota County School Board and working with STC to sort of help STC expand their footprint in Northport here to their next phase so that they can then create the training of the job opportunities for healthcare and get that moving. You asked about Toledo Blade. Toledo Blade has a lot of activity going on with it, including the fact that we're trying to get a YMCA right there at King's Plastic. Hopefully we'll have an announcement for that pretty soon. But a YMCA there with childcare that will house over 150 to 200 children, as well as after school and programming for kids would be phenomenal. And then you said War Mill Springs. War Mill Springs, we've moved forward since we got direction from the commission in July with the 4-1 vote. And, we're going through the geotechnical survey of the proposed building areas, and we are doing real estate and investment evaluations by a third party to help us through the process. And that process includes scrubbing financials, negotiations, getting all those processes ready so we can turn it into an offer or a proposal to put in front of the commission next year. The very next steps will be a meeting with the commission in December for an update, and then in the beginning of the year 24, we should have some progress to report.
So there's a whole lot happening within the city. I mean, we just talked about 3 projects, and the resiliency program itself. Is that going to play an essential role in some of these projects to really get things moving in Northport, even like the Toledo Blade Corridor?
It will. We're trying to find ways that we can.
Not Toledo Blade, but even Price.
Yes, absolutely. I think people only know what they see. So I tell people that there are a lot of things moving behind the scenes with, Toledo and Price. You think about the area right there behind the Pink Tequila, the little Coke bottle lake that's back there. We're trying to get that developed. Our economic development manager, Vinny Mascarenas, is working, of course, with our development services director, Elena Ray, and we're just trying to make sure that we bring some activity there so that people can see other diversity of whether it's food, whether it's shopping, walkability, other options, and everything just being built, west over there in Welland Park. We care about all areas of our city, and we have to make sure that they see developments in all areas to know that that's what our actions support.
As a city manager, it is totally a different position than a lot of cities have. Most we have city mayors. We don't have city managers in a lot of these positions. As a city manager, what are some of the things that you deal with that people need to understand what your job is in relationship with the commission?
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. We are a melting pot of sorts here in Florida, where we have a lot of different people coming from various areas where there's strong mayor forms of government and they don't have a person in this particular role. Now, my role in this commission manager form of government, simply put, is to execute the vision of the commission. If you really want to put it very simply, I run the day-to-day operations of the city, but it's in alignment with the vision of where the commission wants to take us. And their vision has led us to growth and economic development, balancing of our environmental efforts in that same context. We are always concerned about affordable housing and the activities that we want to bring for our residents to be happy here. And at the end of the day, the bottom line I'll say is that we are in a time where everyone is suffering financially. The economy and the inflation, things are just high for everyone all over the board. So what we try to do is make sure that when we do our budget process, we put together something that allows us to be very aware of the citizens who we are working for and to be very fiscally responsible. During this budget process, we were able to cut out over $4 million before the budget got to the commission, which helped it balance. And yes, I am aware that we did raise our electricity tax from 6 to 10%, and we instituted a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, for I believe 4 or 5% as well. But those were necessary in order for us to balance our budget while keeping our millage rate the same. And keeping the millage rate the same is something that's very important to us and our commission. It's the property tax. It's the one that hits everyone the hardest. And if we can continue to grow at the rate that we're growing, with that millage rate staying the same, then that's a very successful victory.
Well, I appreciate that. That you have a ton of responsibility, and you answer to 5. And I just read the article in the Herald, and I kind of want to broach that subject for a second, because what I find is that there's still some issues within the city hall walls, and I hate the fact that there is, because one, I think it draws a negative vibe down. I think we should probably handle this on some better professional levels, and I know that I watched some of the training that was provided at City Hall, several hours worth I watched, and I learned a lot. But as a citizen looking outside in, I look at it and say, why can't we act like adults? Can you kind of add some context to the whole scenario that played out in that article?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very long answer, so I'm going to try not to be as long-winded as I could be with answering it. But, the situation happened with me and the commissioner having a conversation regarding me providing updates. It was our weekly one-on-one update, which I have my 2 assistants, city manager, in there as well, because I do not have one-on-one meetings with her. And this was an example and a prime example why I do not. So when we came into the meeting, she was already agitated because of an email that she received from a former commissioner with information that me and the former commissioner had spoken at a lunch prior to that meeting. And the response was, well, I should have called her and told her this information. And that is inaccurate because it was not time sensitive or rose to the level of me calling all 5 of the commissioners to tell this information. I was scheduled to speak to them all within the next 24 to 48 hours, except the mayor, who she was preoccupied with other pre-scheduled activities. So the conversation kind of went downhill from there. And when it got to the end of the conversation, the commissioner stood up and, she put her finger in my face and, she was yelling and I told her not to. And she turned around and she did it again, before she walked out. And again, that was par for the course. I mean, I don't think any of us were surprised by the behavior or were going to do anything other than sort of just keep moving on. But ultimately, she came back up and apologized about 30 minutes later after I finished another meeting. And when she apologized for waving her finger in my face, she called me a big bully at the same time. And so then, subsequently after that, an employee in the hallway heard something and came back in and told one of our employees, who came back in and told me. And when you have someone in this day and age who exhibits the behavior of rage and anger, and then another third party employee hears something and says something, we have to take those seriously, because all too often in our society, where I do believe there is a sickness that we have as a culture, where we see these mass shootings and incidents that we all say, well, we wish there were some warning signs. Well, these are warning signs. They may not lead to the exact outcome, but these are warning signs that when you see something, you say something. And it doesn't matter whether it was a whisper, a yell, it doesn't matter how this employee heard what they believed they heard. But everything that they believed they heard was in the vein of, I'm going to harm this building and people who are in it. And once you hear that and they say something, and I talk to our police leadership, we have to approach this and treat that person like any other person. This wasn't said in a moment of jest, which, as you know, still should not be allowed. Let's be clear, because people get suspended and expelled from school just for saying that now in this day and age. And so we really take every life in this building and in this city seriously. So we took that situation seriously as well. And then it played out from there, from the actual events that happened to one of the friends of the commissioner reaching out to the media and them finding out about it the very next morning and having conversations about it. And, it's not a me versus her situation. This was her actions and her words led to us taking steps in the direction to make sure that everybody in this building was safe.
And I kind of want to stick there for a couple more minutes, because we've already paid, and quite frankly, sometimes you just have to get some education in, and we paid for that once. So has that relationship been better since that presentation that we had back then? So the commissioner asked for this particular mediation, and I wouldn't do it without the other commissioners being involved, because, like she says, she's one of 5 bosses, and she says that often. She didn't say it on the day that we had this incident, by the way, even though the paper said she did. She never said that to us. But either way, the behavior, we do not expect to change. Normally, the behavior is related to, let me say something in public so the people can see it. But when I get behind closed doors, it's exactly the same. There is no change. I had no confidence that it would change. And after that happened, the very first time that she was able to say something in public that she thought I did wrong, she did. And it just keeps going on. I think we need to stop thinking that the behavior is going to change. This commissioner has been here for, 5 or 6 years before I even got here. It was too late to change that behavior on my behalf. If she came in the door and I came in the door at the same time and we had a long tenure together, then we could maybe set different expectations of how to better interact with each other over the long run. But there's no changing that behavior now. And that behavior existed before I got here. It's not specific to me. It's not specific to the staff here. It happened to the staff before us. And if she were here longer, it would happen to the staff after us. But, it is what it is. We deal with it. We have a year to go. We'll give her what she needs and provide her with information to be successful. But we're not going to give her our energy anymore. And we're not going to let it take up so much of our staff time. So that's how we're going to go forward. Yeah, Bobby Shutt says the unprofessionalism and immature behavior, along with this commissioner's threats, are grounds for her removal. And I want to ask this, because education, let's approach this through without the commissioner and her name.
Right.
If something like this occurs, and I asked this question earlier to someone, and I said, if your boss does these things and is threatening, what is the recourse? How do you deal with it?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I and the commission have very little options to police the behavior. Of course, if it rises to the level of the Commission of Ethics, you can file something there and go that path. But the removal is extremely difficult, and it goes to the governor. But we have crossed the threshold of a hostile work environment a very long time ago. And we are, as a staff, making sure that we put ourselves in positions now to protect ourselves. And that's the best thing that we can do. And we cannot sort of engage in the behavior. If I were to file a lawsuit of a hostile work environment, which would very well be supported at this point, it would only cost the city money to defend her in a lawsuit. And we're already paying money to defend her in a lawsuit. The city right now is paying over $30,000 for the current lawsuit for the ethics violation that has been filed against her. And I know that we're all budget conscious and we all know we're using taxpayers' dollars. But for someone who portrays herself as always caring about taxpayers' dollars, why don't you pay that back to the city if you're so concerned about taxpayers' dollars? Because that's $30,000. And then, of course, her friend as well has lawsuits, either past or present, that have cost the city over $20,000. So just be careful when we listen and hear people always talk about how they champion taxpayers' dollars when they're not really willing to be responsible for what they cause to us themselves.
And sticking on that topic for a second, it's I guess they would call them frivolous lawsuits a lot of times. And sometimes we need good stewards out there.
Correct.
And I don't want to question that either, because there is such a good steward is a good steward of our community.
Totally agree.
But how would you define that?
Well, I wouldn't lump everyone into the same bucket. First of all, the government needs oversight because we have proven almost on a daily basis that various governments around the state and in the country have people in positions where they abuse their power and do things incorrectly, and a lawsuit is necessary. But when you have repeat offenders filing lawsuits on former commissioners on a regular basis because they didn't get what they want, it's just a pattern of behavior of those people. What we're trying to say is that, and what we're trying to show every day is that we are leading the city in the right direction. And I feel like we're always being judged on the sins of our forefathers by saying, well, the person in your role before you did this, the person before your role, that role did that. We want to be held accountable. I have always said accountability is not a dirty word, and it does not scare anyone who works for me, because I'm going to hold them accountable. The commission holds me accountable and the public holds them accountable. That's the way it's supposed to work. So if you are fearful of that, then you're normally fearful of that because you're doing something wrong. We don't have anything to hide. We make mistakes. I always say that. We apologize for them. We correct them. We don't make the same ones, and we move on. But the passion and the intent of myself and all of our team is to make sure that we do the best for this city every day.
I want to ask the person at the city who came forward and made the complaint, is there a way to protect her from losing her job, or does she feel threatened?
Well, the first thing that the employee thought was that it would allow her to lose her job, because this commissioner has come after her job in the past in a public forum, wanting to eliminate her job while she was still in it in years prior. And that's unfortunate, because this employee is 80 years old and, she has worked here for quite some time. So I gave her the assurance that this commissioner cannot take away your job. I thanked her. I applauded her. She saw something and she said something. It would have been easier for her to just say, you know what, I'm going to keep my head down and keep moving. But the behavior that we've seen, you have to get to a point where enough is enough. And I think that we're all there. So we reassured the employee. We are making sure that everyone knows that our energy needs to be focused and pointing in the right direction. We need to do the best for 85,000 people and not just one person who has continuous issues with multiple people over the course of time, all the time.
So I asked that of the employee. Are you taking this personal, or is your family?
No, I'll tell you who is taking it personal. I get a lot of calls or, messages about, hey, are you okay? Are you going to leave and do this and do that? And I tell people, I explain it to them like this. If I were here for the short term, if I was using the city of Northport as a stepping stone, then I would have turned a blind eye to this behavior and said, you know what? I am not picking this. I am not doing this. Let's just go ahead and, let her do what she's going to do. And, I'll move on in 2 years. But we are in this for the long haul. We are settled into the community. We love the community. It's a beautiful city. We have a lot of stuff to do. I'm proud of what the team has done. I'm even more excited about what they're going to do. But I never take this behavior personal, because I do believe there is a bias that exists between her and myself since the moment I interviewed, but I don't know what's in her head and her heart, and it's not my business to know that. All I need to know is that I need to do the job every single day, and it never says you're going to like everything about the job every single day. It says go do the job. You do the job, do it well, every day, rinse and repeat. That's it.
Have you ever confronted this before?
This kind of behavior?
Yeah.
I've seen this kind of behavior, but never from a sitting elected official while they were on the board. It's very unique to see the anti-government conspiracy theory thinking on the board at the time when you're trying to get things done. We as a board, collectively, they as a board are very, very, very good and strong. It is a phenomenal board because they're able to get things done. It's just a shame that the harmony that you would like for all of them to be on the same page doesn't exist. And that doesn't mean that we can't have someone who has different views of how to get to the same place. But if you don't share the same value system, you can never get to the same place. And her and I don't share the same value system. And I don't know if she does with anyone else. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. But
I kind of want to jump into a little bit of the social media stuff, because as a city, we do a really good job as far as getting that information out and trying to encourage more people to go to, I think, a position of strength when you're trying to seek information. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned some friends that are out there, but some of the pages, some of the Facebook pages that we have within our community, some do good, some do okay, some have this idea that my information is the only way, my turn of the information is the only one I want out, and I kind of get frustrated with them myself, because there are people that join those groups that don't say anything because they're scared because they're going to get shut off of the information. And it's kind of like this, I hate to say it, the bullying tactic of Facebook.
I was going to say, it definitely sounds like bullying. It's amazing how the bully always calls someone else a bully. It's almost like when you're younger and someone accuses you of cheating on someone. It's normally because they're the one doing the cheating. So they're accusing you of behavior that they're doing of their own. But from my standpoint, Mr. Rawlings, what I would say is I would encourage the people who are in those rooms of more negative energy than positive to step out. Don't listen to the voice that's dominating the room. My email is scrolling down on the ticker. I can see it. Please reach out to myself or Anna Duffy and schedule a meeting. We're happy to sit down and talk to you and give you our side. It doesn't mean you'll agree and we'll sway you, but I would like for you to have both sides of accurate information as you make your decisions. The people who are leading the negative charges, look at where they're coming from. Look at the behavior past of myself, of what happened. These are not ideas. These are not actions that are unique to myself and our team or the current commission. It just will keep going on and on and on. So we have decided we are moving on from the negativity. We are not going to entertain it. We are not going to bring us down. We have tons of good work to do in this city, and we want all those people to come along with us on this journey. We have so many good things that if they would just give us a chance, for the ones who haven't already, and I do believe in my heart that the majority of our city is strong and we are rowing in the same direction. But I am greedy. I would like everyone to be on board with us. So I'm going to try to get as many people as possible. But just judge us by our actions and what you see, and don't believe everything that you hear from other people who are rooted in a negative lifestyle every single day, all day.
Well, and I have a relationship with all 5 commissioners and yourself and a lot of people at City Hall. And I'm on a personal note, I'm really kind of distraught over this relationship. I know you both, and I find myself with the struggle, and I think I'm going to speak for a lot of people out there that find ourselves in this really strange position of who do I follow, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and tell you what I think, and I tend not to do that too much.
Okay,
but calm, cool, and collected usually wins over when I have to deal with business. And I lean more towards who's got their self in check. And so right now, because of not what was said so much, but the fact that some things that were done were not denied. They were factual. So it's like, I sit back and I wonder, and what I would do, and I mean this even to the parties, both parties. How do you build the bridge for 12 months that things can move forward? This whole thing is about how can you get out of office in the next 12 months as a professional. And it's not you, it's the person who's here. How can you do that and transition yourself into what a lot of people have admired because they fought for things and done things. And it's not bad things either. There's rah-rah moments, and there's this, you get your highs and your lows. Can we just finish in the middle? How can we approach that?
Well,
how are you going to approach it?
Well, and that's a good question. And I'll tell you how I approach it. So every single day I come in here with something to prove, and it's to make sure that I do the best job humanly possible in this job. I don't want to be a city manager. I want to be the best city manager in the county. No, in the country, because that's what this city deserves. So every day I'm coming in here trying to figure out how we can do better. And I was just talking to another commissioner doing our one-on-one. I was like, why am I picking these issues and problems to go solve? We got enough on our plate, because the work never stops. And if we're going to give the best to our citizenry, then that means trying to be better every single day, better than you were the day before. And that's my philosophy. My job is to make sure this commissioner and all commissioners have the right information so that they can make the best decisions on behalf of the people who elected them. That's the job. So when it comes to meetings that we have in the public, I will make sure that she's prepared. When it comes to questions that she has regarding items for decisions, I'll make sure that she gets it. But, when you talk about a bridge and how to get past it for the next 12 months, she and her friends have been involved in filing 2 ethics complaints against me at ICNA that were unfounded, both of them. The last one was by Ms. Gibson. And because there was nothing there outside of normal work issues that need to be resolved. But these are people who have made it clear that they are trying to not only smear my name and reputation, but if they could remove me and get me fired from my job tomorrow, they would do so. I don't know how anyone can be expected to say, okay, well, now you can try to do those things unfounded, and then you can smile and be friendly in other settings. It doesn't work that way. We are here to do the job. So we're going to do the job. And until one of us are not there to do the job, we will do the best that we can. But we don't have to be friends in order for me to give her what she needs as one of my 5 bosses. And that's what I will do. I will make sure I give her what she needs so she can do her job as she is entitled to. So
has there ever been, and I'm asking, here's the thing. This is one of those moments where you have to ask these questions.
You go right ahead. It's an unfiltered conversation.
It is. And I love that about this show. Real talk is real talk. And has there ever been a time where staff hasn't provided that to her?
No, not to my knowledge. But what I will say is people tend to believe that just because this commissioner asked a lot of questions, that, you don't have to go and answer the question. You do have to answer the question, but you don't have to answer the same questions multiple times. The job is to provide information, not to convince you. And sometimes people think, well, you need to convince me. No, we don't. We need to give you the same information that everyone else has, so then you can make the best decision based on where you see your priorities should be met. So from my standpoint, we're not going to not give the information that they need, but it's a matter of volume and frequency, and we're going to do it with the best of our capabilities and the staff that we have.
Again, to go back into our city government side of things, when you talked about you have 5 above you and then you're there, and then staff is underneath that.
Yes, sir.
So that's kind of like the tree in the city, right?
Yes.
So when one commissioner asks a question, does the response go back to all or just that single commissioner?
It depends. Sometimes it's on an agenda item question where everyone could benefit from the knowledge of it, and staff will send it out to all commissioners. Or sometimes we get questions or situations with residents, and then that will go out to all commissioners. But normally most of our commission asks a lot of questions, and we have conversations during their one-on-ones and agenda briefings. This particular commissioner, we do not have a lot of those in-person conversation questions because, normally it's, well, what do I have to say? And I say it, and then she doesn't have much, and then we move on. But normally in a productive relationship, it's a back and forth, and we have a conversation. And those conversations generate more questions and more pathways of answers and questions, as opposed to typing and writing in an email and wanting a paper trail for everything.
Well, you said that you and staff have learned to protect yourself. What did you mean by that?
Well, we have to protect first of all, we don't meet one-on-one. There has to be a witness because there will be stories that happen and inaccuracies if we don't. So that's the first thing for protecting yourself. Second of all, you have to protect yourself from a time standpoint. Right now we're spending this one individual is taking up 2/3 of our time. And that's not in balance with the 20% that this person represents as a member. So we are putting sort of parameters in place, just like the clerk's office and the attorney's office, where, we have to put limits on our time of how much we can spend on researching all the volume of questions that are asked of us. And
I've got a statement from Chuck English. He says, I have had several enlightening coffee chats, and I have too with Chuck, with Mr. Fletcher, and understand his perspective. Agree to disagree without making it personal.
Yeah.
Visual animus is a tragedy for all.
I agree. We all lose when we look dysfunctional. When I got here, when people said they wanted to de-annex from Northport, let's be clear. When people say, well, I don't know why they want to leave. Yeah, you do. Because of the commission meetings that we had and things that were happening in City Hall and this chair and other chairs, people were like, well, I don't want to be a part of that dysfunction. We want someone who we can proudly say, yes, that's my city manager and my commission. And I think that we have that now. We are moving in that direction. So we want to maintain that. So when someone says, well, you're not transparent, that is offensive, because we spend a lot of time making sure that we provide what's asked for, when asked for, and give people what they need to their ability. And if they have more questions, we try to ask that. You don't have to agree with us. You don't have to like us, but you can't say that we're not trying to give you what you need. And Mr. Rawlings, let me say this one thing about Mr. English, since he chimed in. I want to thank him, because a lot of people out there know that we just started our natural resources division, and we are really focused on that vision and plan of how we take care of the environment in a way that this city has never seen before. Well, in one of my conversations with Mr. English, he's the one who showed me a model of the natural resource division that had been discussed in years prior. And I took that and went back to staff, and that's how we got on that pathway. So I know he's on our environmental advisory board, and we thank him for his service, but he and others are going to see a great benefit as this city continues to grow. And we have that laser focus on our environment, and you can get out and meet and greet with them as we go on tours throughout the city and hear back from the citizens on what they want and what they feel about our environment. It's going to be very important. And Mr. English was at the heart of that. So I thank him.
Well, and so simply put, and I brag about this to everyone, because we have city commissioners who are very, very out front. We have ex-city commissioners who are very, very out front.
Yes.
And readily available to answer questions, sit on boards, and do different things like that. We have a city manager who just now it got clarified that you had a coffee chat with Chuck English.
Yeah.
So if you're not readily available, how are you doing all these coffee chats and all these meetings out into the community? Because Northport Forward, that partnership, it's a partnership. And I have stressed this over and over again because I love that group. Carmine and Ginger, they've done a great job with that group.
Yes, they have.
But it's a partnership. It's
Yes.
not city dominated.
Yes.
You're going to do this. It's truly a partnership to get great information out to the community. Can you talk about that partnership and why that's helping you be more transparent?
You better believe it, Mr. Rawlings. I'm going to tell you, first of all, I love Northport Forward and what they do, and we share the same value system of making sure, like I said earlier, accurate information is out there. Once you get the accurate information, you are free to make whatever decision that fits your heart, but you have to start with having accurate information, and that normally means that we have to be available to provide it. But there's a sadness in Northport where it is viewed as a bad thing for the government to partner with nonprofits. I've never seen that before until I got here, and I recognize that there's some personalities involved in it as well. But how dare we not partner and want to join our nonprofit community in supporting the same target audience, which is our residents and citizens, to make their lives better, whether it's through feeding, funding, clothing, information, pick what they need. We're here to provide it. And nonprofits are not in the business of making money. So their money is tight. The government might have space that's available. Why would we not partner with our nonprofit community? We must do better. I refuse to give up that initiative. I think that we can do better and we should do better. And Northport Forward is a great example of, Walter and Carmine and Gender, of how we are all able to get in front of a group of people, sing a similar song, and every time that we have it, I know that we reach the people in the audience, and it's because they hear us and they believe us, and we put our money where our mouth is.
Well, and I've been to that, and the truth of the matter is the fact that you step away, at those meetings, the leaders in the room are your staff.
Amen, brother. Amen.
And people in the city need to understand that you've taken the target and placed it solely where it should be,
yes,
at leadership.
Yes.
And you've had them buy in to support from the top.
Sir, I am the conductor of the orchestra. All I'm doing is helping them and remove barriers in their way. I love our leadership team. We had the last meet and mingle at Bobcat Trail, and they one by one got up and answered all these questions. And I'm just so proud of them. They take the time away from their families to be there. And then when, the crowd was so respectful and answering, they asked questions for like half an hour, and they just got up and answered them one by one and told them what we could do and what we couldn't do and what we follow back up on. They are the true superstars. And if you build a high-performing team in a high-performing organization, great things are going to happen. But it starts with the culture. It starts with hiring the right people who can share the same mindset, be held accountable, and then sort of have it cascade down into all layers of our organization. That is where the magic happens. But I love our team, and they are phenomenal. And I'm very, 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 very gracious for all of them being here.
So, and I'm going to kind of jump back for a minute and come back. I want to jump back into the fire for a second.
Go right ahead.
And it has to do with a lot of the layering of complaints and different. How do you deal with staff and keep them fired up and laser focused? Your words.
Yes.
On peak performance.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the negative pull of certain people within our community and it's consistent.
Absolutely. So first of all, you got to put up a layer of protection for them. Whether it's at a commission meeting, they feel very intimidated and threatened by hostile behavior coming from the dais. You got to step in to make sure that we protect them, to make sure that they're comfortable to give their best. Some of our staff have been attacked and their ethics have been questioned by, again, a commissioner, which is not very common in the realm of business that we do. But when we talk about making sure that they're their best, they have to know that you are going to support them and you have their back. And that does not mean they're always right. Does not mean I'm always right. Sometimes we have conversations and I lose based on what I want, the way I'm trying to get something done. And sometimes they win, but we share in the outcome that we're trying to achieve together. Normally the outcome we're in alignment with, we just disagree on how to get there. And if you think about it, that should be what politics normally is. You normally agree on the outcome, you disagree on how to get there. In its simplest form, that's the way it should be. But you have to show them that you care about them more as people than professionals. And when you do that and you make that connection with them and they know that, okay, Jerome cares about me, my family, my kids, or me, my health and everything that I'm going through, that's when some of the magic happens. I always tell my team, I'll always care more about you than people, than professionals, because I want you to be happy. You need to be happy in order to be your best. In order to be happy, I got to provide the right environment. In order for me to provide the right environment, I got to make sure I'm leading in the right way. So that's my responsibility and my charge, and I take that seriously. So we are going through multiple different issues, as you can imagine, organization of this size always is, but we will get there together. All you have to do is just stick with me and stay with me, and I promise you, I won't let you down.
Well, and that's leadership. That's the true side of the leadership that you've brought into the city, because we were lacking that. You talked about prior to. Well, we've had good leaders in the past. Mm-hmm. We've had some that are questionable. Yes. And we've had some decisions that were made in the past that kind of lump us in the position that we are today. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because that transition from the past to today almost has to be a speedy transition, because we're with the Live Local Act, right, we talked about earlier. And if you have missed this show, you need to go back and watch it all the way through and share the information. But with the Live Local Act and what we're trying to do with the transition of commercial and mixed use and the limited, and I say limited, it is limited amount of commercial property that we have within Northport.
It is.
And everybody says, oh, we got lots of land. Yes, we do, but it's plotted out. But it's not plotted out the way people think it is.
Correct.
It's plotted out for houses.
Right.
And so if Live Local Act comes into our town and does what they could do, right, is that going to hurt us and cause our tax base to be hurt?
Yes. So as I tried to say earlier, the more commercial you have, the more diverse the funding options for this city will become. We want them to come in. Not only we want them to come in to pay their own taxes, but we want them to come in to bring in other people to spend money in this city. 90% of this city commutes out for work. So we need jobs here. We need all of this to stay within the city of Northport. And we have been a traditional bedroom community, and I guess the affordable housing cradle of the county, I think we used to be called. And now is anything really affordable anymore? Nope. I would question that and say no. But here, if we continue to build housing, we'll continue to be the bedroom community that we don't want to be. It was fine in our infancy, but now we're maturing as a city. We want to mature in the right ways. And people say, well, we don't need any more housing. Yeah, you do. But you want the right kind of housing. You want affordable housing, workforce housing, attainable housing. All of these things are the kind of housing mixtures that you need to make your community successful. But you bring in the commercial so that you can not have all the tax burden be on our citizens. Of a city that's growing this fast and our size, it's very hard for people to understand how we're able to provide the levels of service and the volume of services that we provide without raising the millage rate. And we're going to keep trying to do that as much as we can. And there are going to be little trade-offs and little situations, like I mentioned earlier in our budget process, that have to be understood as we move forward, doing the best for the most. But it will never be perfect, but we will always try our best.
Well, we have some really unique things about Northport, and I got to tell you, as a long-standing citizen of Northport, I hate the word bedroom community. I despise it because I know where it lands us.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't do us any good.
It does not. No.
It actually.
It's not a compliment.
It doesn't inspire people. It makes you think that nothing will change.
Yes.
And the beauty in nothing will change is it will change around you and you will have no say.
Correct.
And so if we don't have, man, I wish I could get these social media people to step up and be leaders instead of dragger downs. Because if they truly cared about their community, they would be out here talking about why it's important to bring in commercial, why it's important to strategically place them and get their lazy butts into some meetings and really understand what's happening. Because if we don't do something, the same ones that are going to be bitching about taxes being too high.
That is true. And what I'll say is, John, they may not know how to get engaged and what that truly looks like to work within their life schedule. Reach out to us, have a meeting, have a conversation. There might be an advisory board. There might be a meeting they can attend. No one's asking for them to commit, hours of their lives that they would jeopardize other priorities that they have, because everyone, has things that they're responsible for. But just be involved in your government in a healthy, productive way. It does not require negativity. It does not require name calling or yelling or fussing. It just requires availability. The best ability is availability.
And an open mind.
Yes. And that's what I mean. Have your mind available for what you don't know. And then once you know it, then you can make your decision and go from there. No one's asking you to be a robot. No one's asking you to rubber stamp anything. But being disagreeable in public does not mean that you are making government better. It's like, well, if you're agreeing with government, then you're part of the problem. That's not the case. There's so many differences that happen out of the public sight as we work together in a partnership to make the best of this city for the people who live in it and the people who work in it.
Well, and I'm going to say this because I'm on one hand, I'm disappointed with the newspaper articles that are out, and I hope that crap stops. It needs to be handled on a professional level, and if you can't do it on a professional level, just stop, because the deterioration of our city is the mockery of behavior.
Agreed. But let me put something in context for you. I am not the only city manager in this state that disagrees with the commissioner. The difference is when it happens, you don't go run to the media to put it in the paper. What values does that do for anyone? It doesn't help us. You have those conversations. And like I said, when this situation that you referenced happened, I didn't even think about, because I have in the past, going and writing an email to all the commissioners and telling them what happened. It is what it is. Just deal with it and move on. Like you said, we got to just move on. Just move on. But this got bigger and blown up when the media got into it very quickly. And that was not my doing. That happened on the other side of the fence. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Let's talk about that tool for a minute. Because this is kind of the media tool that we use to try to, one, I try really hard with all the commissioners. I've had a lot of them on lately, and I'm so blessed to be able to have access and be able to provide access of information to the community. And there have been times where I'm frustrated because there are things that I want. I'm not going to get everything I want, but sometimes as a community and a newer community, you have to compromise.
Correct.
You said that earlier. You said that about staff, where there's a trade-off, but you also said something about outcomes, and I want to know, are you leading with outcome-driven results?
Yes, and in multiple ways. So we base our strategic plan and our budget on the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. The money should go where your priorities are. One good example is the Natural Resources Division. It was one of our pillars of priority, but then when you look at our spending, it was like 2% or 1% of our total budget. Doesn't make sense. Economic development was the same way. So the commissioners right-sized us and gave us more economic development staff so that we can be stronger in what we do to grow our city and its resources. From a staff standpoint, as we lead by outcomes, one, the first thing we have to do is make sure that our employees are happy in what they need. We got to make sure that they're challenged professionally to keep them here. In this day and age, it's unfortunate, but we got to make sure that our compensation matches our peers. Otherwise, we will lose them. And that turnover leads to more, not only financial trouble, but work product, quality of control problems. There's nothing good that happens from that. So we have to make sure that we take care of our team. We talked about the leadership team earlier. The leadership team shares the philosophy of making sure that their teams are satisfied. And that is not easy, but it's the job. And we make sure that we do that. And as we talk about the outcomes that we expect from them, the main outcome I expect for them is I want them to be happy and coming to work every single day. If people are miserable coming to work every single day, then something's not right. It goes back to that culture. And what sort of example are you setting when you lead? That example has to be authentic. People will only believe you if they think you are being true to what you say. And that comes over time where you have to show them better than you can tell them, but you have to be consistent. If I am mean to them one moment, nice, then mean, then nice, then mean, then it's not going to work. But if I am nice, mean, nice, then, Jerome was having a bad day. Everyone has a bad day or a bad moment. None of us are perfect. You apologize for what you did wrong once, you mean it, and you move on. I'm not a big believer in repeatedly apologizing, but I am a big believer in making sure that if there's a problem, you fix it and you make sure that people see you fix it. And behavior, you correct it and you change it. And the behavior that you allow is what you will be judged on. Like if someone acts out and they see that you're not addressing, like, oh, well, he doesn't mean what he says. He's just letting such and such get away with murder. And meanwhile, I'm getting crucified over here. There has to be a level of consistency in your words and your actions. And your heart has to be in the right place, which they will recognize before you will even recognize.
So I was in the service and one of my sergeants was in his teaching moment. Mm-hmm. Made a statement. I've never forgotten it. And it'll take 1,000 attaboys to make up for one screw up. He said something else and it sunk in. And so I gotta believe that there's some feeling on multi levels of people in this world. Mm-hmm. That wish that they could take moments back. When I read that article, it said that the apology was then thereafter. And you're right with the apology side of it. It's hard when it's a competitive or a continued apology. With the way you handle your staff and your business. Mm-hmm. Even prior to coming to Northport, because you were in different positions then, did you ever have a scenario, not like this one, but where you had a staff member that you had to work with the behavioral side of it and kind of show some leadership there? So
I'm a firm believer that emotional intelligence is a superior factor of success when it comes to teams and team building. And I believe that you have to have it. And, the empathy and the sympathy that we display for others will build your team up. In addition to this conversation, and, it's funny when you said that when the apology is met with the same behavior. Well, this apology in this instance that you're talking about in the paper was met with an insult right after it. I'm sorry for waving my finger, but oh, by the way, you're a big bully. It's your words are not consistent. You have to be able to mean something and then sort of move on from it. But yes, I remember an employee who I had who was my HR manager. And, I didn't think that she was going to make it. You have to have those hard sit down conversations with people about how their behavior is impacting others and what you expect out of it and how that expectation is not being met. So when you have those conversations, and we had a conversation, and she shocked all of us by turning it around 180 degrees. And she was able to then become the leader of her group that we needed her to be. And that was hard, but we have hard conversations. That's the job. But you should always be respectful and professional as you are giving that feedback, because that's what they deserve. It does not make sense to be evil and nasty to people and think that you're going to get what you want out of them. It doesn't work that way. And if you don't have the emotional intelligence to either do that or learn how to do that, then I question whether or not you're in the right role in whatever organization you're in.
And I just had this conversation the other night, and I call it building a wall, and everybody says, well, what wall are you building? And I said, I'm not. So I don't build walls. I said, right. Other people build walls. They keep putting bricks up.
Yeah,
they're building a wall. I'm not building the wall. I don't want the wall. I want open dialogue. I want communication, and I want people to be happy. And that's kind of my approach. I don't want this wall built that you're continuing to build. But if you're going to build it, I'm going to let you finish it off, because once you're on the other side of the wall, I like you where you're at.
Right. Stay right there.
Stay right on the other side. Don't tear it back down now, because in order to tear that wall down, you have to start making some changes.
Right.
You have to start removing those bricks.
Agreed.
And so it's my mindset, that I play with that. But I want to bring up a comment that Chuck English said, because I believe in what he says in this statement, but there's some hindsight to this too, because commercial and the multifamily units, there's some value there, and there's commercial that we really need to have here that we don't have, that people don't want to have here. So he says, aren't all high-rise multifamily unit bedrooms also being added as a bedroom community?
Yes and no. So, and first of all, let's be clear. Me and Chuck English, we talk, what I would call regularly, but we do not always agree. And that's the great thing about Chuck.
I love Chuck.
Right, exactly. And Chuck's not going to agree with you on everything that you say. And, but he is very respectful, and I always appreciate him and his comments. So what I would say is, people typically say, well, we don't need any more housing units. We know we're already overbuilt with a housing community. You do need more housing inventory. You need the right kind of housing inventory to match the level of commercial that you should be pursuing at the same time. Both can happen simultaneously. I would never tell us to stop building multi-unit units that fall in line with the just traditional thinking of a bedroom community, because we have 85,000 people and growing to the city, and they've got to live somewhere. But we want them to live here. But I think that our eye was taken off of the commercial at some point in time, or maybe it was never there. I don't know. But in order for us to be a balanced community, we have to make sure that the housing, the commercial, the environment, the job force, all of those things are looked at simultaneously. We can look at them all at the same time without sort of neglecting one of those areas.
Well, we're also, what is it? The 5th largest landmass city in the state.
That sounds right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've got 85,000 plus people here now. We're truly on pace, I believe, within the next year and a half to go over 100.
I agree.
We have very, as far as I'm concerned, a footprint of commercial property that is, bar none, probably the lowest on this coast per city.
Yes.
That includes Inglewood.
Yes.
I think Inglewood has a larger commercial product to push out there than we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not as big as we are.
That's correct.
So they're providing services for us because we're driving a way to do that. That's revenue. And I said this to somebody the other day. The importance of our community surviving matters because we have to keep people home.
Correct.
Whether that's bringing them back home or having people drive in to go to restaurants, to go to products, to see Welland Park, to go to Warm Mill Springs.
Yes.
Those are the generators that we have to have for income.
Correct.
To supplement our driving away to have lunch in other communities.
That's correct. We are looking for a better diversity of not only jobs, diversity of eating options. We talked about housing options. We want this city to continue to move forward and not move backwards. Right now, we are at a very pivotal point in the history of this city. We have done a lot, and I'll only speak since I've been here. I won't speak good or bad about before then, but based on the vision of the commission and what we've done, we've executed on a lot, and I'm very proud of our team. But we have to keep this going. And I don't mean for the next 2 years or 10 years. I mean for the next 50 years. You got to keep moving in this direction to be thoughtful and inclusive with your community and be careful about how you grow. And if we do that, then people will have a good quality of life and they will want to be here. We want people to say, I love living in Northport. And if you don't like living in Northport, we want to know why. And maybe it's something that we can fix. And if we can't fix it, then we'll let you know we can't fix it. But the energy about our future is so important. And we got to keep our positive energy going. And we got to move on from things that have held us back in the past as a people and a profession and just say, look, you know what? This is the job. Let's do the job. Let's be happy and make sure that we fulfill our obligations to this community and make this the best community.
So I want to ask another question about relationships that are vital. We have a Chamber of Commerce that is extremely active. Mm-hmm. And can you talk about the relationship that you have and staff has with the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah. So when I met with Bill Gunnan on a meeting last Wednesday to discuss another situation where, it didn't go particularly smooth with me and one of the board members. I said to Bill, and I was very clear, I said, we need you, period. There's no city of Northport growing our business community and partnerships without the Chamber of Commerce. Bill has been very welcoming and very open. Emily, I went through their leadership, the entire group of them have been very big, and we need to support them. As we're talking about how we want to please our community, that the business community is a big segment of that. And we talk about, well, you're raising fees on them and this is what you're doing. Sometimes, well, let me be clear, my relationship with you cannot be built on me giving you everything that you want. It's never going to work that way because ultimately at some point in time, I'm going to have to say no or something's going to happen. But you have to believe that based on our body of work and what we can do, we will do. And when we say that we support our business community and we love the chamber, we do it by our actions and we make sure that we uplift them every chance that we get and we partner with them on every chance that we get. Their members are important, but the entire business community is important. We talk about the small businesses. How can we have an entrepreneurship center? How can we partner with the chamber to make sure that we promote the new businesses coming into the city? It's all part of the formula of making sure that you respect the chamber for what they do, you help them for where they're going, and you appreciate their leadership. And we do. And as I told him, we need him, and there's no two bones about that.
So the relationship we have with the Chamber of Commerce is essential, but if we don't grow the commercial base, it really does affect every citizen within our city walls. And we sit at about 8% right now, right?
Correct.
So if we're at 8% on commercial,
correct.
What is it that you, as the city manager, because you put together budgets and your staff puts together all the budgets, mm-hmm. and you crunch all these numbers, what is it that we should target as citizens? What is it that we should be backing you on to help us get what we want?
So the main thing that's on the plate right now to answer that question is the UODC rewrite. There's rezoning and activity information changes to our code. We can't get to 18% if we don't change the code. The code is when you talk about mixed use and where it's going to be industrial and commercial and where it's going to be, all of that is factored into our future. So we're looking for support on the ULDC, but it's not easy because there is a negative impact of people who are in certain places. And we acknowledge that. The problem is when you do something on this scale of size in our city, there's going to be things that we cannot control that are going to be unintended side effects. And we're trying to talk through those and minimize those as much as possible. But we need the ULDC to be our weapon to move this city forward. We get that right. You keep the right people in place. You keep the right actions on track. That's how you get there. But it starts with the ULDC to answer your question.
Is the ULDC a true roadmap then?
Yes, it is. It's going to be a roadmap. There's 5 chapters and I think an appendices, if I'm not mistaken. But it most certainly is a roadmap. It's going to tell us where and how we're going to develop ourselves. And, you think about the mobility plan as well, how we're also going to build the infrastructure of transportation, whatever that looks like, and as far as the roads and bike lanes and other things that we want to do to help people be able to get around through our city. We're 104 square miles, but we need to have better roadmaps and then execute on those roadmaps. So the roadmap is one thing, but then you hold your government accountable for doing that roadmap. And that's where the magic happens. If we put something in our budget and we say we're going to do it, you should be looking on our website to see the progress of it through our dashboard, or you should be showing up at a meeting or sending an email or calling whoever you want to call, one of your commissioners, and say, hey, what happened to this project that you guys said you were going to do 6 months ago? Can I get an update? And, maybe it's time for a public update, or maybe you can keep it there, but you have to hold us accountable for what we say we're going to do. Government can tell you anything in the moment, but you have to follow up and make sure that they did what they say they're going to do. I've seen it far too many times.
Well, I love the fact that you're willing to come on the show and give quarterly updates. I love that because it gives us a true opportunity. Here's one of the a reason I love doing this is because we've got people asking questions and you're answering them on the fly. Mm-hmm. She said, I understand the need for business growth. And this is from Jody Vaughn. And by the way, Jody Vaughn, STC, Toledo Blade, employee, and part of the admissions. So if you have any questions about going to STC, check them out. Great nursing program. You've got carpentry. You've got all kinds of stuff. And we've got growth coming in that area. But feel some rezoning of commercial inside of a neighborhood is not the best vision for moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you for that question. And we actually have heard that, from her and others. And the commissioners have heard that, I will say, from her and others. And there has been some tweaking of our plans that staff has provided. Our staff is providing what they believe, which is in the best subject matter expert opinion that they have. It doesn't mean that everything we propose will be accepted and done, but we are making adjustments as necessary and as we can in order to ensure that like I said, the unintended consequences are minimum. So we are doing our best. I do, and I have heard about the zoning inside of neighborhoods. It's not our desire to put a neighborhood in a position where they will have such an inconvenience of commercial that is right on top of them. We have to figure out a way around that, and we're still working on that. The process is not finished. There's multiple more public conversations that we'll have with the commission, and I'm sure we'll get some more traction on resolving this.
So, the unique thing I have to bring up, and she says, where would any revised plan be? Question.
The latest plans that we have would be on our website in our planning and zoning department. There's a map on there. I don't know if and when how the last one was posted, but we do have a workshop on Monday, which is November the 6th. And in that workshop on Monday, we'll be talking about activity centers. So that'll be a good place to tune in for the latest conversations on mapping.
And isn't that part of a recorded meeting that?
Oh yeah, it's recorded through YouTube. You can watch it if you can't attend in person. It is, I believe, it begins at 9:00. I can double check while we're right here, but I believe it's at 9:00. But if you can't make the meeting in person, it will be recorded.
And
it is 9:00.
Like 9:00. Jody and Chuck English and the rest of the viewers out there, if they were to want to get information out. And she actually says, I'll be there.
See you there, ma'am.
Yeah. So introduce yourself. I'm sure that Mr. Fletcher will not forget Jody's name at this point.
You better believe it.
And really, she helped me out quite a bit the other day with a student question. And she's a good asset for STC. Like I said, check out STC and promote as you do. I know you do. And that partnership that you have there is essential to our growth too, isn't it?
Absolutely. At STC, we are working with the school board because we need to make sure that STC has the right level of funding and the right level of classes and programs for the students so that they can help with the jobs that we're going to have here. The hospitals are going to be tremendous for this city. I don't think the city knows and understands how that Sumter corridor is going to fill itself out. Welland Park is going to continue to fill itself out. And STC is going to be right in the middle of all of that, making sure that we can get people ready for all the activity. It's going to be phenomenal. It's a great time to be in Northport.
And I was going to say this before Jody chimed in, and I've come from a lot of cities that are already built, so the infrastructure is there.
Yes,
a lot of people here, and we're a melting pot. So a lot of people come from cities that are bigger than we are. They're cities already, and they move here because they love the trees. I love that concept.
Yes,
but we can't live with trees and expect our taxes not to go up. So commercial has to play a role in that, but commercial also plays another role in convenience for residents.
Yes.
And how are we working on that side of things? Because contrary to everybody's belief, we've had a lot of changes since COVID on how business structures even look at themselves, which makes it even more difficult to zone these correctly so that we get activity.
We are chasing a target that is constantly moving, is how I would say that, when you're trying to balance between the environment and the business. And the environment we are dedicating specific and targeted resources to our environment and our trees. I believe we still need a lot of trees, and we still will have a lot of trees. It just depends on where they're at. When people see the ones that they see every day and you start taking them away, they think that there's no more left. We're 104 square miles. We have tons of trees, trails, and Legacy Trail and the Greenway Trail and the parks. All of those things factor into that. But don't just rely on, well, you're taking away the trees I see, so there's not enough of them left. And the business has to be responsible. You have to be able to say that you are taking the environment into account before you build. Not after you build, but before. And that's what these citizens deserve. And that's what I think we can provide, making sure that we're thoughtful in what we're doing. Just be thoughtful.
Isn't that part of our new department that we developed?
Oh, yes. But we have a vision as a staff. The commission has a vision because that's their job. This division is going to get out to the public to hear the public's vision as well, so that we can melt all of that into a plan and a view that will show the city how we care and what we're going to do. It's going to be very powerful, and we're going to include the public, and we're going to make sure that it's transparent.
And so these the meetings that you're having and you're going to be promoting out, where can people find that information?
Well, hopefully we'll be able to reach them with the information. We're going to put it on our social media accounts as always, and it'll be on our website. But email blast, we're going to be partnering with some of the environmentalists and their organization to help spread the word as well. But as you can imagine, a city of this size, who we have had a lot of comments about our environment, we are going to have some forums for people to come out and say what we're doing right, wrong, and what we believe we need to focus our energy on and our attention, and create some priorities and some short, medium, and long range plans, including budget implications, and have all those kind of conversations with our community.
So I want to take just a couple more minutes and pose a question to you about the recycling program, because I know for a fact that you have not come from a city that ever had one like ours. Can you talk about and I pound my chest every time I leave my community. I brag. My mom came down on vacation, and my mom left asking me what the green and the brown barrels were and why. And so it's this. To me, I take a lot of pride in it because I know the background. But for you, you've got to work with staff, and then it's part of the budget. And I want you to talk about why that's essential and why people should get even more active on it.
Well, and that is a very loaded question. So let me just tell you, the recycling that we do here, I applaud what we currently do because it's valuable to our environment and it saves money and it allows us to just be conscious of how we treat our materials. And that's first and foremost, first of all. Second of all, I know you've met Vice Mayor Alice White, who has recently challenged me, and I guess I should say I more challenged myself in that conversation to have a recycling campaign for the city for this upcoming year. And I'm working on it. And she makes some very good points, whether it's the lack of recycling receptacles in different places, the lack of promotion of the benefits of recycling, how to recycle, where it's like. And I was like, you know what? I was like, why do we not? And I've already talked to our Public Works director about this. Why do we not create a campaign around that and make that part of the energy of 2024? So we are working on it. It is on my list. It is so important. I think that if we can get something that has some energy around it, people will gravitate towards it and get on board with it and do better with it. But I am working on that. I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad you dug into the playbook, but it is very important for us.
Well, and I'm going to trigger some other thought for people who are listening right now, because you, again, sit with staff, you do the budgets. When it comes to recycling,
yes,
there's a positive with our number in recycling with other cities don't have.
True.
And how does that affect the everyday worker on their tax dollars?
Oh, yeah. Where are you going with this, sir? Yes, absolutely. The more we recycle, the less we look for other revenues, which includes raising fees and taxes and other things. So if you recycle more, we will be able to make more from that and then add to our revenue streams that we can reduce by increasing other taxes or fees. And I get that. And I know that
no other city can do that.
Yeah.
No other city that can do that.
And I know. And I'm glad that we can hang our hat on that. But I'm telling you, Vice Mayor White is on like all the time. Like, we got to do better. And I'm like, I am going to make her happy. I am. I'm going to make this be a community effort that we can do. And if we do that, if we do better with our recycling efforts, like you said, and then the board sees that we're doing that and they're happy with what the outcome is, I think that it matches the pillars and the direction that they've already given us. It's just more about how do you get something very specific done. That's a victory.
A 5% tax increase or a 10% increase on recycling.
There you go. Which
do you want? I can throw my trash in the right spot,
right?
Recycle properly.
Yes.
I'll increase my taxes, or I can just be lazy and throw it on the trash can and bitch about my taxes going up.
And it's something everyone can do. Everyone has a part to play in that. Absolutely.
100%.
Across the board.
All right. So I've overstayed my welcome with you on the tour, but I want to give you an opportunity. Just if there's anything left on your agenda, have at it for a second.
Let me just say, first of all, to all the people who, they, whether they're reading the paper or they're reading social media, please know and believe that your government is here to serve you in the best way possible. We are not perfect. We will work better to get it right. We want to be inclusive. We want to hear from you. We want to know how we can, like the walls that were talked about earlier, stop you from building that wall. We don't want that. I want you to come with us on this journey. This is going to be a great journey together. We believe that we have a lot of good things to do in the city in the near and the long-term future. We just want you to be a part of it. We want you to be happy here and have a high quality of life. We're going to provide it. We're going to show you that we care, and we're going to show you that we listen as we solve problems together. But if you are in any sort of a negative space and you want to reach out, please reach out to me and schedule a meeting. I will meet with just about anyone who has not burned a bridge that cannot be recrossed, and there's only a few select people who have done that, and they know who they are. But for everyone else, please feel free to reach out and talk to us and let us know how we can help you love the city as much as we do.
Well, and I got to say, let's keep Northport momentum moving Northport forward.
Oh, I love it. Love it. My man. Yeah.
You came up with a line, and I'm going to let you end with it. What was your line for our community?
Our community of unity.
How's that going?
It is going great. Listen, that tagline was born out of the de-annexation effort when I first got here. I was like, how can we be separated? And they explained to me, and I think it was October 9th that we received the latest update in that case. And that was, October 9th. We received it, and the judge ruled in our favor and disposed of the group's claim in the case. And their deadline to file an appeal is November the 8th. And what this means is that the judge found that the city commission afforded procedural due process and observed the essential requirements of the law entering their final order. So we're very proud of that. But no matter what happens in litigation, we're still going to be a community, and we still have to care about each other. And that's what we have always said. And we're moving in that direction. So
community of unity is really including Welland Park.
Everyone.
And everyone. And Welland Park is an essential part of what we're doing, even on the commercial side.
Absolutely.
And there's real value there.
It all comes into the city of Northport's pot. And no matter whether it's Welland Park or Legacy Northport, we care to make sure that we all put it in, we all benefit from it, especially from a taxing standpoint, from a quality of life standpoint, a diversity of activity standpoint. We should be proud of the entire 104 square miles that encompass our city. And I'm not willing to let any of it go, because I want us to maximize all of it. And that's how I look at it. And as I said before, months ago, a year and so ago, it doesn't matter who wins the litigation. We're too close to each other not to be the same community, no matter what you're called. We got to live together, and we got to work together. And it should be in a sense of friendship, not out of a sense of hate.
So I'm gonna end with you with this opportunity to thank your staff.
My staff, you all are the best staff in the world. I appreciate the hours, the work. People will ever recognize what you did and went through Hurricane Ian, and sacrifice your own lives to help the lives of others. And that's what true public servants do. We have a great public safety team that actually puts their lives on the line every single day. And that cannot go unnoticed in this day and age where bad things happen all the time. And there are people who support public safety and say they support staff. We need to support all of our staff. We're all 800 something of our employees are public servants. And we do this because we're trying to enrich the lives of others, not necessarily to make our own lives better. But we do live in the community that we serve. And that's another positive, where we can say to the number of people who live in the city of Northport who are able to reap the benefits of your hard work. So thank you for all of your hard work. You're the best. You know where I'm at if you need something. I trust and believe in you. And let's keep doing what we're doing and showing the world how strong we can be together.
Well, Mr. Jerome Fletcher, thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank your staff for making this quarterly event. And I hope the next quarter comes as fast as this one did.
It did fly fast.
It went really fast. But yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to stay an extra 40 minutes and
my pleasure.
Really get the information out that is so desperately needed in our city. So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it.
This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio 97.5 FM and City Manager Jerome Fletcher of Northport, the city of Northport. I appreciate you, and have a great night and drive home safe. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Started. Republicans want small government, but they have no problem governing our bodies. That's a problem.
Were you in favor of the vaccine mandates?
Yes. The mandates are no one was forced to get a vaccination. People had a choice. If they didn't get the vaccination, there were certain things they couldn't do. So there was consequences to not getting the vaccination. One could choose not to have it. No one made.
So there was a lot of
of course, they weren't thrown in jail for not getting a vaccine.
There was a lot of nurses and people in the medical industry and school industry who lost their jobs who would kind of argue against that. What do you have to say about that?
Still, they had a choice. It wasn't like a woman being forced to carry a child and give birth when she doesn't want to give birth. It's a choice to not have a vaccine, and if the option is that you can't go to work because you don't have your vaccine.
That doesn't seem like a choice, though, if people don't want to get it.
It's not a lifelong consequence, like being forced birth.
Well, I mean, people worked their whole career, their whole lives to get where they're at in their career, and they just lost it just like that because they didn't want to take a vaccine.
Oh, it's temporary though, because eventually they will be able to get a job back, right? I mean, COVID isn't going to last forever.